Age or injury could put any of us in an adult foster care home. Tonight, Target 8 investigators are exposing, though, a gap in the state law that may let some homes avoid state safety and quality inspections.
Involved is an adult foster care operator Target 8 investigators first told us about last December, just before the state shut down one of her homes near Holland. Henry Erb has the story tonight.
It was a killer fire in the worst possible place, a home full of mentally impaired people. 9 escaped, 2 died. One of them, Christian Aversano, was the father of 3. He was living at the home because he had suffered a bad head injury and had other health problems, according to his widow, who's filed a lawsuit. The home was run by a Kent County woman, Tricia Parsons. At the fire scene, she didn't want us to show her face.
When I got here and knew they weren't out of the house, I knew. Because there was just so many flames and it's so cold and the fire just wasn't stopping.
Parsons has been in the adult foster care business since the 90s, according to state licensing and court records. State investigations have found repeated rule violations at some of her homes. According to the Ionia County Sheriff's Department investigation report on the fatal fire, there was reason to worry about safety at the Palo home. A resident told investigators after the fire that she routinely had smoked in bed and tossed cigarette butts into a can on the floor. That same resident burned the candle that started the deadly fire. The home's operator, Parsons, remembered the candle, according to the fire investigation report. A detective wrote that Parsons recalled it as having a decorative plastic face of a Christmas theme and would probably be flammable if the candle burned down long enough. There was no explanation of why she left it in the house. It's one of the things we wanted to talk to Tricia Parsons about. We left our card at her place. She called, but after that we couldn't reach her.
Something else we wanted to ask her about. The Palo home seemed like the kind of place you'd want somebody else watching over. In Michigan, that's the job of the Department of Human Services. It licenses adult foster homes and inspects them, but not the Palo home.
The Palo home was not licensed or inspected because Parsons found a loophole in the law that any home can use to duck inspection. Here's why. The law says that an adult foster home has to be licensed and inspected if it provides room and board, supervision, and personal care. But according to the state's top regulator,
you don't need a license if you carve out some of those services.
And that's what they did. Parsons' sometimes boyfriend, Clinton Houghton, rented rooms to the residents under the name Brickstone Property Management, and Parsons provided the other services, according to what they allegedly told investigators. They arranged that after state inspectors threatened to shut the home down in 2008 for having no license. It was enough to satisfy state regulators, who later sent Parsons this letter, telling her that as far as they were now concerned, she was no longer operating an unlicensed home because room and board was now being supplied by one vendor and services by another.
Licensed adult foster care facilities obviously have rules and regulations they have to go by. When a person specifically creates 2 companies to get away from being licensed, throws up all kinds of red flags for me for people who are vulnerable.
Maggie Kolk is an advocate for people who live in adult foster care and works for an organization called the ARC.
People really need to care about this because it's going to affect more than just people with disabilities. It will affect seniors because there are adult foster care homes that do service only seniors.
State regulators know there are unlicensed homes operating, but don't know how many.
In an unregulated facility, you wouldn't have that type of oversight. So my recommendation would be you would choose a licensed facility. But some people don't make that choice, and that's their decision.
Some residents of the Palo home had court-appointed guardians, so we don't know how much choice they had in living there. According to what Parsons reportedly told detectives, both of the men who died had guardians and were referred to the Palo home by a Detroit area company called Specialized Care Service. We wanted to know why it thought the unlicensed home was okay, but that company didn't call back.
Clearly, unfortunately, we keep finding gaps.
Judy Emmons chairs the State Senate's Human Services Committee and represents the district that includes Palo, where the home burned.
You're pointing out another one that clearly is a glaring gap in the legislation and the law, and something probably we better start having some hearings on.
We'll be following what happens. I'm Target 8 investigator Henry Erb.